Chapter 17, A Dance in the Dark. Gotham, The Hunt. The air over Gotham was thick with tension. Rain poured from the sky, streaking the towering skyscrapers and coating the streets in a thin layer of water. It was the kind of night that smelled of danger, the kind where criminals felt emboldened, and the shadows seemed deeper than usual. And in those shadows, Batman was watching. Perched atop a high-rise, Bruce Wayne narrowed his eyes at the Wayne Enterprises building. The security had already been heightened in response to the chaos in Bloodhaven, but something told him that wasn't going to be enough. Because tonight, someone was coming. The mysterious assassin who had been orchestrating Bloodhaven's descent into madness. Kane. Bruce had analyzed every available piece of data, cross-referencing it against known League of Assassins operatives. But Kane. There was no record. No identity. And that made him dangerous. From the darkness, a figure moved. It was time. Infiltrating Wayne Enterprises. Alex stood in the alleyway adjacent to Wayne Tower, dressed in an unassuming black tactical suit. He had already memorized the guard patterns, security systems, and possible escape routes. Every detail had been absorbed and calculated. This wasn't just a mission. It was a game. A game against the most dangerous detective in the world. Alex smirked to himself. Time to see if the Bat was watching. He activated his Amon's vision, letting his sight pierce through walls, mapping out the building's interior. The research facility Roz wanted was located on the 50th floor, isolated, heavily guarded, and protected by Wayne Tech's best security. Getting in unseen was impossible. But making it look like a League mission. That was easy. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small League of Assassins insignia. Then, with a flick of his wrist, he teleported onto the roof. Silent as death. Inside the tower. Alex moved through the ventilation system with practiced ease, avoiding the security lasers and motion detectors. He had already manipulated the systems remotely using a hidden device planted days before, ensuring no alarms would trigger until he wanted them to. Reaching the 50th floor, he dropped down into a dimly lit corridor. The research lab door stood ahead, protected by a biometric scanner. Too easy. Alex reached into his coat, pulling out a small vial of Faceless Man's extract. A drop on his palm, and his hand shifted, taking on the precise texture and DNA pattern of Lucius Fox. The scanner beeped green. Access granted. Inside, Alex quickly scanned the room. Computers lined the walls, filled with encrypted data. In the center of the room sat a prototype device, one that Roz wanted. A device designed to manipulate metahuman genes. Alex frowned. So this was what the League was after. He placed a small drive into the main console, siphoning the files. He could always decide later if Roz deserved to get them. Then, a sound. Footsteps. Batman's arrival. The moment Alex turned, the room went dark. A black figure dropped from the ceiling, landing without a sound. Batman. Alex barely had time to react before a batarang shot toward him. He twisted, dodging just in time as the projectile embedded itself in the console behind him. Bruce's voice was like gravel. You've been busy, Kane. Alex smirked. You know my name. I'm flattered. Batman didn't hesitate. He lunged, throwing a punch aimed at Alex's ribs. Alex barely managed to twist out of the way, countering with a precise knife strike aimed at Batman's gauntlet. Sparks flew as the blade met reinforced armor. Who are you working for? Batman demanded, blocking another strike and countering with a brutal kick. Alex rolled with the impact, flipping backward and landing smoothly. You already know the answer, Alex replied, his voice casual. The League sends their regards. Batman narrowed his eyes. Lies. Kane wasn't acting like a League operative. He wasn't using standard League techniques. And that bothered Bruce more than anything. Batman surged forward again, this time pressing harder. His strikes were faster, sharper, testing. Alex, for his part, played along. He blocked what needed blocking. He dodged when necessary. But he never attacked with intent to kill. Because that wasn't his goal. Batman did notice. And that told him everything he needed to know. Kane isn't trying to win this fight. He's stalling. The realization came a second too late. A small EMP device in Alex's hand detonated, sending a shockwave through the room. The lights flickered, the security systems glitched, and the cameras cut out. And in that fraction of a second, Alex vanished. Escape and reflection. By the time Batman rebooted his Cowl's systems, Alex was gone. But the files were still there. He hadn't taken them. Bruce exhaled slowly. This wasn't about Wayne Enterprises. This was about testing him. The question was, why? Bloodhaven burns brighter. While Gotham played host to shadows and secrets, Bloodhaven erupted into full-scale war. Firefly's crew torched entire blocks. Gang factions turned on each other. And as the city's police struggled to contain the violence, one figure watched from the rooftops. Deathstroke. The legendary mercenary had been observing in silence, waiting for the moment to step in. Because he knew something the others didn't. Bloodhaven wasn't falling apart. It was being guided. And whoever was behind it. They were a master at playing the long game. Deathstroke smiled beneath his mask. Interesting. A message from the League. Back at the League's stronghold, Alex returned from his mission, his expression unreadable. Ra's al Ghul stood waiting. Do you have it? Alex handed him the drive. As promised. Ra's studied him. You encountered him. Alex shrugged. He's exactly as you said. Relentless. But predictable. Ra's nodded. And your thoughts? Alex smirked. He's watching me now. Ra's smiled slightly. Good. The Bat's next move. Back in the Batcave, Bruce stood before his monitor, analyzing every frame of footage from the fight. Kane was fast. Skilled. Precise. But he wasn't just another assassin. He was more. And that made him dangerous. Nightwing crossed his arms. So, what now? Bruce's gaze hardened. Now, we find out who he really is. Because Batman knew one thing for certain. Kane wasn't a name. It was a mask. And whoever was behind it was playing a game unlike any Gotham had seen before. End of chapter 17. If you wish to read more or simply support me, then check out my Patreon at URL. Or just search Goku_01 in your Patreon and you can find the advanced chapters there. No chapter tomorrow since I uploaded tomorrow's chapter today. Cthulhu_Yogg-Sothoth creators thoughts. 8 comments 0 vote. Chapter 18. Smoke and Mirrors Wayne Manor, the detective's obsession. The Batcave was silent except for the rhythmic hum of the Batcomputer. Screens flickered with security footage, each frame analyzed and reanalyzed by Bruce Wayne. He had been reviewing the footage of his fight with Kane for hours, dissecting every movement, every feint, every deliberate mistake. Because they were deliberate. Kane could have fought harder. He could have used lethal strikes. But he didn't. That meant something. Bruce clenched his jaw as he pulled up the security feed of Wayne Enterprises' 50th floor again. He watched as Kane entered. He watched as Kane stole nothing. He watched as Kane left him the evidence on purpose. Nightwing leaned against the Batcomputer, arms crossed. This is getting into obsession territory, Bruce. Bruce didn't respond. Nightwing continued, if he really was a League assassin, he would have taken what Ra's wanted. Instead, he left everything behind and fought you just long enough to test you. Bruce's fingers tightened over the keyboard. Nightwing narrowed his eyes. You're thinking what I'm thinking, aren't you? Bruce exhaled. He's not just working for the League. A pause. Then who is he really? The League's next move. Deep within the League of Assassins, Himalayan stronghold, Ra's al Ghul sat in contemplation, his emerald eyes fixed on Alex. You did well, Ra's finally said. Alex tilted his head. You don't seem pleased. Ra's smiled faintly. Batman is watching you now. I know. Ross studied him carefully. And yet, you left him the files. Alex didn't react. He would have gotten them anyway. Better to control what he finds. Ross chuckled. You think several steps ahead. That is why I chose you. Talia, standing at the far side of the chamber, spoke for the first time. And what do you think he has concluded about you? Alex smirked. That I'm not who I pretend to be. Ross nodded approvingly. Good. Then the real game begins. He stood, walking toward a nearby table where an ancient scroll lay unrolled. He gestured for Alex to come closer. The League is moving forward with its plans in Bloodhaven, Ross explained. Firefly was only the beginning. Soon, the city will burn. And we will reshape it. Alex examined the scroll, his eyes narrowing as he saw a detailed map of Bloodhaven, marked with strategic points for destruction. Ross continued, but first, I want you to personally oversee the removal of an obstacle. He tapped a section of the map. Deathstroke. Bloodhaven, a city in chaos. The streets of Bloodhaven had become a war zone. The remnants of Firefly's gang were clashing with rival factions, the police overwhelmed, the city spiraling into anarchy. And in the heart of it all, Slade Wilson watched from a rooftop, arms crossed. Deathstroke had seen power plays before. He had caused power plays before. But this wasn't some ordinary gang war. Someone was engineering this. And that someone had just become his next job. His comm crackled. Got eyes on our guy yet? A voice asked. Not yet, Slade muttered. But I know he's watching. Because if Kane really was tied to the League's growing influence in Bloodhaven, then it was only a matter of time before. A shadow moved behind him. Slade whirled around, blade drawn. Nothing. His good eye narrowed. So, it was like that, huh? Slade smirked. All right, kid. Let's see what you've got. A battle of assassins. Alex emerged from the shadows, stepping onto the rooftop's edge, his expression calm. Deathstroke's smirk widened beneath his mask. Took you long enough. Alex tilted his head. I could say the same. Slade didn't waste time with banter. He moved, slashing with his sword in a lightning-fast arc. Alex teleported a few inches backward, just enough to let the blade graze the air where his throat had been. Slade narrowed his eye. Speedster. Alex smiled. Something like that. Slade lunged again. This time, Alex didn't dodge, he parried, his dagger clashing against Slade's sword, sparks flying. The force of the strike sent Alex sliding back, his feet barely skidding across the wet rooftop. Slade watched him carefully. You're good. Better than most of the League's pawns. Alex rolled his shoulders. I try. Slade attacked again, faster, pressing the advantage. A flurry of strikes, each one precise, brutal. Alex blocked, dodged, countered. But he knew, Slade was testing him. Just like Batman had. Alex feigned a stumble, allowing Slade to think he had an opening. Slade took it. He swung for Alex's exposed side. Only for Alex to vanish in a flicker of darkness. Reappearing behind him. Slade barely had time to react before Alex's dagger pressed against his throat. A beat of silence. Then Alex spoke. I could kill you right now. Slade smirked. Then why don't you? Alex hesitated for a split second. Just a fraction. And that was all Slade needed. With a brutal twist, he flipped Alex over his shoulder, slamming him onto the rooftop. Alex barely managed to roll away before Slade's sword buried itself into the spot where he had been. Alex exhaled sharply. Okay. That's fair. Slade sheathed his sword. You're not League. Not really. Alex smirked. Maybe. Slade tilted his head. So, what's your game? Alex met his gaze. You'll find out soon enough. Then, just like before. He vanished. The bat closes in. Back in Gotham, Bruce analyzed the new intel. His mind was working non-stop. Kane fought like an assassin, but he didn't kill. He infiltrated Wayne Enterprises but didn't steal. He played games with both the League and Batman. Why? Who was he really? And then, it hit Bruce. This wasn't about infiltration. It was about control. Kane wasn't following orders. He was playing his own game. Bruce leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing. You're not just another assassin, are you? He isn't now. Stop talking, Bruce. Go pick up, make another Robin instead of bothering my Mick. Somewhere out there, Kane was watching. And Bruce was going to find out exactly who he was. No matter what it took. End of chapter 18. Dash 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 dash. If you wish to read more or simply support me, then check out my Patreon at URL. Or just search Goku_01 in your Patreon and you can find the advanced chapters there. So should I add AN like this just for jokes or just remove it? Cthulhu_Yogg-Sothoth creators thoughts. 8 comments 0 vote. Chapter 19. Threads in the Dark. Bloodhaven, a city on. Bloodhaven burned. Flames devoured an entire district as chaos reigned in the streets. The remnants of Firefly's gang clashed with hired mercenaries, the police overwhelmed by the sheer violence. Smoke coiled into the sky like fingers of a dying beast, choking the air with the scent of gasoline and blood. Amidst it all, Alex watched from the rooftops, masked as Kane. This wasn't just a random gang war, it was a deliberate act. The League was orchestrating destruction, destabilizing Bloodhaven to reshape it into something else. And yet, something was off. Alex had studied Ra's al Ghul long enough to know his methods. The demon's head favored control, precision, not reckless destruction. But this was messy. It meant one thing. Someone else was moving behind the scenes. Alex narrowed his eyes, scanning the battlefield below. The pieces were shifting. And he needed to know who was playing the game. Deathstroke's hunt. A few rooftops away, Slade Wilson watched through the scope of his rifle. His target. Kane. Slade had fought countless warriors in his life. Assassins, metahumans, soldiers, gods. But Kane wasn't just another killer. He was thinking. And that made him dangerous. Slade's finger hovered over the trigger. He could end this now, put a bullet in Kane's skull before the bastard even noticed. But Slade wasn't here for a hit. He was here for answers. So instead, he activated his comm. Oracle. You there? A pause. Then a female voice crackled through the line. I don't usually work with mercenaries, Slade. Slade smirked. And I don't usually ask for help. Oracle, Barbara Gordon, sighed. What do you want? I need intel on a guy. Calls himself Kane. Silence. Then, Batman's already looking into him. Slade's smirk widened. Figures. Oracle hesitated. You're not planning on killing him, are you? Slade chuckled. Not unless I have to. Great, Oracle muttered. That's reassuring. Slade adjusted his aim. Keep me posted. I have a feeling Kane's going to be a problem for all of us. Then, without another word, he disappeared into the night. The League's next step. Back at the League's hidden stronghold, Ra's al Ghul stood over a map of Bloodhaven, tracing his fingers along the city's districts. Alex knelt before him, playing the role of a dutiful assassin. You have done well, Kane, Ra's said. But there is more to be done. Alex remained silent. Ra's tapped a section of the map. The police force is still an obstacle. Their captain, James Corrigan, refuses to bow. That must change. Talia stepped forward, arms crossed. Corrigan is protected. Even the League's usual methods have failed. Alex tilted his head. Then why not kill him? Roz smiled faintly. Because some men are more useful alive than dead. He turned to Alex, eyes gleaming. I want you to break him. Not with force, but with fear. Alex's mind raced. James Corrigan. That name wasn't unfamiliar. And then it clicked. Corrigan wasn't just a cop. He was the host of the Spectre, one of the most dangerous cosmic entities in existence. If the Spectre awakened, even Ra's al Ghul would be nothing more than an insect before his wrath. Alex forced himself to remain calm. Understood. But inside, he knew this was going to be a problem. A game of shadows. Later that night, Alex found himself outside a Bloodhaven precinct, watching James Corrigan from the shadows. Corrigan was exhausted. Dark circles lined his eyes, his shoulders slumped with the weight of the city's chaos. He sat at his desk, rubbing his temples as he sifted through reports. Alex moved. A flicker of darkness. A whisper of movement. He didn't need to attack. He didn't need to fight. He needed Corrigan to feel like he was being hunted. A chair scraped against the floor, without anyone touching it. Corrigan froze. His hand instinctively went to his gun. Alex smiled behind his mask. He moved again, causing papers to scatter from the desk as if swept by an invisible force. Corrigan stood up abruptly, eyes darting around the room. Sweat beaded his brow. Who's there? He whispered. Silence. Then, a voice, deep, distorted, filled the room. Do you know what waits for you, Corrigan? The air grew heavy, the lights flickering. Corrigan staggered back, knocking over his chair. Alex watched as the man's fear took root. Good. But then, a surge of pure divine power erupted from Corrigan, forcing Alex to teleport back onto the rooftop. Alex clenched his jaw. The Spectre had stirred. Even in his dormant state, he had reacted. Alex exhaled. Well, that's annoying. This was going to be trickier than he thought. Batman moves in. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne was already one step ahead. The Batcomputer had been processing every available scrap of data on Kane. Every fight, every move, every mission. And yet, nothing made sense. Kane fought like an assassin, but he didn't kill. He infiltrated Wayne Enterprises, but he didn't steal. He hunted criminals, but he wasn't a hero. It was a contradiction. And Bruce didn't like contradictions. He turned to Nightwing. Suit up. We're heading to Bloodhaven. Nightwing frowned. You think Kane will be there? Bruce narrowed his eyes. I know he will. Because if Batman had learned one thing over the years, it was that predators always return to the scene of the hunt. A meeting in the dark. Back in Bloodhaven, Alex stood on the rooftop of an abandoned church, deep in thought. His infiltration of the League was going smoothly, but the Spectre was an unpredictable variable. He needed to be careful. You look troubled, a voice said behind him. Alex turned. Talia stood there, arms crossed, watching him. Something on your mind, Kane? She asked. Alex smirked. Just thinking about the mission. Talia studied him. You're different from the others. Alex raised an eyebrow. Am I? She stepped closer. You don't follow orders blindly. You question. You plot. Her gaze was sharp. You don't serve the League, she said. You serve yourself. Alex chuckled. And what makes you think that? Talia smirked. Because if I were you, I'd be doing the same thing. A pause. Then she leaned in. Just be careful, Kane, she murmured. Even the best liars get caught eventually. And with that, she disappeared into the night. Alex exhaled slowly. He had to be even more careful. Because if Talia al Ghul was beginning to suspect him, then it was only a matter of time before Ra's did too. And that would be dangerous. End of chapter 19. dash 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 dash. If you wish to read more or simply support me, then check out my Patreon at URL. Or just search Goku_01 in your Patreon and you can find the advanced chapters there. 3 comments 0 vote. Chapter 20 The Demon's Bargain. Bloodhaven, the Shadows Watch. The city never slept. Bloodhaven's streets pulsed with a raw, unrelenting energy, one of desperation, crime, and survival. It was Gotham's neglected cousin, a place where justice rarely extended its reach. And tonight, it was a battlefield. Alex stood atop a crumbling warehouse, the wind whipping against his dark cloak. From this vantage point, he could see the chaos unraveling below, the aftermath of the League's intervention. Police barricades lined the streets. Civilians hid behind their locked doors, praying that the violence wouldn't reach them. Alex had done his job well. James Corrigan was cracking. The Spectre's host had felt true fear for the first time in years, and now paranoia would eat at him. But Alex knew this wasn't enough, not yet. Roz wanted Corrigan broken, not just frightened. And if the League of Assassins wanted a pawn, Alex had to ensure he played the role convincingly. Even if it meant playing a longer game. A warning from the Dark Knight. Before Alex could move, he felt it, a presence in the shadows. He barely had time to react before a batarang whizzed past his head, embedding itself into the rooftop beside him. Alex sighed. Of course. Turning slowly, he saw him. Batman. The Dark Knight stood at the edge of the rooftop, cape billowing in the wind. His white eyes were unreadable, his presence radiating a quiet authority. Alex had expected this confrontation eventually. You've been busy, Batman said, his voice cold. Alex tilted his head. I like to keep myself entertained. Batman didn't move. You've infiltrated the League of Assassins. You've been manipulating their operations. What's your endgame? Alex smirked. And here I thought you'd be thanking me. The League's presence in Bloodhaven is being dismantled, piece by piece. That benefits you, doesn't it? Batman remained silent for a moment. Then he spoke. I don't trust you. Alex chuckled. Smart. You shouldn't. In a blur, Batman moved, closing the distance between them in an instant. Alex barely had time to sidestep before the Dark Knight's fist crashed toward his face. He dodged, countering with a swift strike of his own. Batman blocked, twisting his body and delivering a kick that sent Alex skidding back. This wasn't a test. Batman was serious. Alex adjusted his stance, suppressing the urge to use his Beyonder abilities. He couldn't afford to reveal too much, not yet. You're holding back, Batman observed. Alex smirked. So are you. For a brief moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, Batman spoke again. You have 2 choices, he said. You leave Bloodhaven now, or I take you down. Alex's smile didn't fade. Bold of you to assume I don't have a third option. Batman narrowed his eyes. Which is? Alex's form flickered, an illusion breaking apart like mist. Batman tensed. And then, Alex's voice whispered behind him. You keep chasing shadows while I get what I want. Batman spun around, but Alex was already gone. The League's ultimatum. Alex returned to the League's stronghold that night, stepping into the candlelit chamber where Ra's al Ghul awaited him. The demon's head was calm, his emerald eyes studying Alex carefully. You encountered Batman, Ra's said. It wasn't a question. Alex inclined his head. He's watching us closely. He knows something is off. Ra's was silent for a long moment. Then, he sighed. Batman is relentless, but predictable. He will never kill. That is his weakness. Alex remained expressionless. But you, Ra's continued, stepping closer, are different. Alex met his gaze. Am I? Ra's smirked. You don't share Batman's moral constraints. That is why you have potential. Why I have tolerated your unorthodox methods. He walked past Alex, his voice lowering. But now the time has come for you to prove yourself. Alex felt it before Roz even said the words. A test. A final judgment. James Corrigan must be dealt with, Roz said. Kill him. Silence. Alex kept his expression carefully neutral. You disapprove? Roz asked, watching him closely. Alex exhaled slowly. He had played this game long enough to know that hesitation was dangerous. I will handle it, he said smoothly. Roz nodded. Good. Do not disappoint me. Talia stood in the corner, arms crossed. Her gaze lingered on Alex for a moment too long. She was watching. She was waiting for him to slip. Alex turned and walked away, his mind racing. Because now, he had a problem. A dangerous gamble. Alex found himself outside Corrigan's apartment that night, perched on a nearby rooftop. The cop was inside, pacing. On edge. Good. But killing him? That wasn't an option. The Spectre was an entity far beyond human understanding, killing its host would only unleash it fully. And if that happened, even he wouldn't be able to control the fallout. Alex needed a new plan. One that would satisfy the League while keeping Corrigan alive. And so, he took a risk. He stepped into the shadows, and let the nightmare pathway take hold. Corrigan's nightmare. James Corrigan awoke in a world of darkness. The walls of his apartment had vanished, replaced by an endless void. The air was thick with whispers, haunting, familiar voices echoing all around him. His own voice. You're not good enough, James. You let them die. You don't deserve to be saved. Corrigan's breathing turned ragged. He tried to move, but his body was frozen. Then, out of the darkness, a shape emerged. A figure cloaked in shadows. No face. No identity. Just a presence. You think justice protects you? The figure whispered. Corrigan clenched his fists. I don't fear you. A low chuckle. You should. The darkness rushed forward, swallowing him whole, and then he woke up. Gasping. Drenched in sweat. His heart pounded in his chest. It had felt so real. And in the shadows outside his window, Alex watched. He had just planted a seed. Fear was a powerful thing. And if Corrigan believed the Spectre itself was warning him, then he would walk away from Bloodhaven on his own. No need for an assassination. Just a well-placed nightmare. The League's judgment. The next morning, the news broke. James Corrigan had resigned. Effective immediately. Alex stood before Ra's al Ghul once more. The mission is complete, Alex said. Roz studied him. Yet Corrigan still lives. Alex met his gaze. His fear was enough. He will never interfere again. A long silence stretched between them. Then, Roz smirked. Well played, Kane. Alex exhaled quietly. He had won this round. But as he turned to leave, Talia spoke up. You never intended to kill him, she said softly. Alex glanced at her. Talia's eyes gleamed with curiosity. She was figuring him out. Alex simply smiled. Does it matter? And with that, he walked away. Because the game was far from over. End of chapter 20. Dash 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 dash. If you wish to read more or simply support me, then check out my Patreon at URL. Or just search Goku_01 in your Patreon and you can find the advanced chapters there. 9 comments 0 vote. Chapter 21, The League's Next Move. The halls of the League's stronghold were eerily silent as Alex walked through them, his footsteps barely making a sound against the cold stone floor. The torches lining the walls flickered, casting elongated shadows that danced like ghosts. He had completed the so-called test, earned his place within the league, and yet he knew, this was only the beginning. Ra's al Ghul never truly trusted anyone. Alex had seen the way the demon's head had looked at him after his supposed kill. The silent assessment. The weighing of his worth. Ra's wasn't just testing his skills anymore. He was testing his mind. His loyalty. And that meant the real challenge had just begun. He entered one of the larger chambers, where Talia and several high-ranking assassins had gathered around a large stone table. Maps and documents were spread across it, detailing upcoming League operations. Talia glanced up at his arrival, a small smirk playing at her lips. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Alex leaned casually against one of the pillars. "More like I walked past a few." Ra's entered then, his presence alone commanding silence from everyone. He strode toward the table, his emerald eyes scanning the gathered assassins before settling on Alex. "You completed your mission," Ra's said. It wasn't a question. Alex inclined his head slightly. "I did." Ra's studied him for a moment longer before shifting his attention to the table. "The League's war against corruption does not end with a single execution. Our enemies grow bolder. Gotham, in particular, remains a city infested with rot." Alex stayed silent, listening. "The bat remains a persistent thorn in our side," Ra's continued. "Bruce Wayne, whether he wears the mask or not, continues to fund efforts that oppose our goals. And there are others. Those who stand against us." Alex knew where this was leading. Ra's al Ghul was planning something big. Talia placed a hand on the map, her fingers tapping against Gotham's outline. "We have reason to believe that Wayne Enterprises is preparing to back a new initiative, one that would obstruct our future operations. Father believes it is time we take action." Alex frowned slightly. "You mean an attack?" Ra's turned toward him. "No, Kane. A message. A message in blood." Alex kept his expression neutral. "And who is delivering it?" Ra's allowed the ghost of a smile to appear. "You." The mission. A trap in Gotham. Night had fallen by the time Alex arrived in Gotham, his presence masked by the League's usual methods of entry. The city, as always, was alive with crime, neon lights flickering against the polluted skyline. The target Ra's had chosen wasn't Bruce Wayne himself, but rather a key financial figure in Wayne Enterprises, someone who had been working closely with Gotham's mayor to enforce stricter regulations against the League's operations. The plan was simple: infiltrate, leave a message, and eliminate the target. But Alex wasn't here to play the League's game. Instead, he was here to manipulate it. Dressed in his League attire, he moved across the rooftops, reaching the penthouse of a high-rise building where the target, a man named Elliot Grant, was supposed to be meeting with city officials. The League had already cleared most of the building, ensuring no outside interference. But as Alex landed silently on the balcony, he felt something. A presence. He tensed slightly, his instincts screaming at him. Someone else was here. He pushed the door open, stepping into the darkened office. The city lights cast long shadows across the floor, and for a moment, all was still. Then, a whisper of movement. Alex barely dodged in time as a batarang sliced through the air, embedding itself in the wall behind him. His eyes flickered to the side. And there, standing in the darkness, was Batman. A duel in the shadows. Alex sighed internally. Of course Bruce would show up. Dressed in the darkened armor of the League, Alex was indistinguishable from any other assassin. Batman had no reason to suspect who he really was. Not yet, anyway. "Another League operative," Batman said, his voice a low growl. "I was wondering when Ra's would make his next move." Alex didn't respond. He couldn't, not yet. Batman advanced, his stance guarded but ready. "You're targeting Grant, aren't you?" Alex stayed silent, shifting his weight. Batman was analyzing him, studying his movements, his breathing, his stance. The Bat could read people like a book. Which meant Alex had to play this carefully. You can walk away now, Batman said. The League won't win this fight. Alex tilted his head. And you think you will? Batman didn't answer. Then he moved. Alex barely had time to react before Batman lunged, striking fast and hard. The force behind his blows was relentless, but Alex wasn't just any fighter, he was a beyonder, enhanced beyond human limitations. He blocked, dodged, countered with just enough skill to appear like an elite assassin. The two clashed in a blur of movement, the sounds of fists and steel echoing through the empty office. Batman swept low, aiming for Alex's legs. He jumped back, twisting midair, but Batman was already anticipating his movement, throwing a smoke pellet that detonated on impact. The room filled with thick, choking smoke. Alex closed his eyes, activating his spiritual senses. The moment Batman moved within the mist, he struck, grabbing the Dark Knight's wrist before he could land a blow. For a brief second, Batman tensed. Surprise. Alex smirked behind his mask. Batman twisted, breaking free, but Alex had already achieved what he wanted. A psychological advantage. The Bat now knew that this assassin was different. Special. But before either could continue, a gunshot rang out. Both turned. Elliot Grant, the supposed target, had fled toward the emergency exit, firing blindly as he ran. Alex exhaled. That works. In blur, he moved, not to kill Grant, but to knock him unconscious before he could escape. A well-placed blow to the neck sent the man crumpling to the floor. Batman tensed, ready for another fight. But instead of finishing the job, Alex turned and leapt through the shattered window, disappearing into the night. Leaving Batman with more questions than answers. Aftermath. The League's suspicion. Alex returned to the League's stronghold by morning, his posture casual as he approached Roz. The job is done, he said simply. Roz studied him. No body was found. Alex met his gaze evenly. The message was sent. The target won't interfere again. A lie, but one delivered flawlessly. Roz didn't immediately respond. Then, finally, he nodded. You have done well. But Alex knew. Ra's al Ghul wasn't a fool. And neither was Batman. Both were watching. Both were waiting. And the game was only getting deadlier. End of chapter 21. Dash 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 dash. If you wish to read more or simply support me, then check out my Patreon at URL. Or just search Goku_01 in your Patreon and you can find the advanced chapters there. Okay, so someone give me some ideas on characters that have similar abilities to sequence one of any Beyonder pathways. I need them if I want plan for them in the future chapters. Doesn't matter if the chair tear is hero villain. Okay, now I want to ask, why is there close to no comment in every chapter? Besides some people, I don't really see anyone commenting anything. I don't even know if the rest of the views I get are bots or real people. So comment anything you see fit. Also, just for today I am dropping an early chapter, so give me those power stones. Okay, I am leaving, bye bye XD. Also, I can't upload tomorrow since I really have too much work to do, so sorry in advance. Cthulhu_Yogg-Sothoth creators thoughts. 13 comments, 0 vote. Can you guys tell me something? Okay guys, I need some info on DC characters that have similarity to any Beyonder abilities. Both hero, villain, doesn't matter. I need some info if I want to plan things ahead for the future chapters. Doesn't matter if it only matches the low sequence of it, I need info. Also, if you could explain who it is and which pathway it matches, it would be very much appreciated. Thank you very much. 0, 0 vote. Chapter 22. A Game of Shadows. The Himalayan air was thin, sharp with the bite of the cold night wind. Alex stood at the edge of the League's hidden stronghold, gazing down at the valley below. The world beneath him stretched in an endless expanse of darkness, only broken by the occasional glimmer of village lights in the far distance. Tonight was important. A mission. A test. And another step toward securing his place within the League. The briefing. Inside the war chamber, Ra's al Ghul stood before an ancient map spread across a wooden table. The chamber was dimly lit, the flickering torchlight casting eerie shadows along the stone walls. Talia stood beside him, arms crossed, her sharp gaze sweeping across the assembled assassins. Alex, still wearing the identity of Cain, stood among them, his expression calm, unreadable. Ross tapped a location on the map with a single gloved finger. A stronghold of our enemies, he began. A fortress hidden in the mountains, manned by a faction that opposes our vision. His emerald eyes flickered as he looked up. It must be destroyed. A murmur rippled through the room. Talia stepped forward, taking over. This faction has been disrupting our operations for months. They have spies in key cities, and their leader, Adrian Valmont, is an ex-assassin who betrayed us. Alex memorized the name instantly. The mission is simple, Talia continued. Infiltrate. Kill Valmont. Leave no survivors. A massacre. Alex remained still, hiding his thoughts behind a mask of discipline. He had seen this before, the League's way of handling problems. Efficient, brutal, final. Ross turned to him. Cain. You will lead this operation. Some of the assassins tensed at this announcement. A newcomer, an outsider, being given command. That was unprecedented. Alex, however, merely bowed his head. As you command, my lord. Ross studied him for a long moment before nodding. You depart at midnight. The journey. The team moved in silence through the rugged terrain, their black robes blending seamlessly into the night. Snow crunched softly beneath their boots, but their movements were controlled, precise. Alex led them with steady steps, his mind calculating every possible outcome. He had no intention of letting this mission turn into a slaughter. The League was testing him, seeing if he would follow their doctrine without hesitation. But if he played it right, if he manipulated the situation well enough, he could accomplish the mission without unnecessary bloodshed. A fortress, a target, a leader who needed to die. But death was an illusion he could control. The fortress. They reached the outer perimeter just before dawn. The fortress was built into the side of the mountain, its walls reinforced with steel and stone. Guards patrolled in pairs, moving methodically along the high watchtowers. Alex signaled for his team to halt. He crouched behind a snow-covered boulder, eyes scanning the defenses. They're well organized, one of the assassins whispered. Alex nodded. Good. That means they expect conventional attacks. We'll split into two teams, Alex instructed, keeping his voice low. One will create a distraction at the southern gate. The other will infiltrate from the eastern wall, using the storm as cover. The assassins exchanged glances. The plan was unorthodox. The League typically preferred overwhelming force. But Alex was not typical. Talia had warned him that his success tonight would determine his future within the League. He intended to succeed, on his terms. The infiltration. The storm picked up just as planned. Snow and wind howled through the valley, reducing visibility. The perfect cover. Alex's team scaled the eastern wall, moving like shadows against the stone. He reached the top first, dispatching a guard with a quick, silent strike. The body slumped without a sound. They moved swiftly through the corridors, avoiding unnecessary engagements. Then, they reached the inner chambers. Adrian Valmont was waiting. The man stood at the center of the war room, sword in hand, his expression calm. He had the aura of someone who had seen battle, who understood the weight of the moment. Cain, he said, eyes narrowing. Or should I say, the League's newest pawn. The other assassins fanned out behind Alex, ready to strike. Alex didn't move. You know why I'm here, he said evenly. Valmont chuckled. Of course. Ross sent you to kill me. Just as he once sent me to kill others. He glanced at the assassins behind Alex. And do they know? Do they understand what they serve? Alex kept his expression neutral. You betrayed the League. I left the League, Valmont corrected. I saw what it was. A machine that grinds men into dust, all in the name of an ideal that serves only Roz. The assassins tensed, but Alex remained still. This was his moment. A choice. Say what you came to say, Alex murmured. Valmont studied him. Then, he sighed. There's a way out, he said quietly. For you. For all of us. We don't have to keep playing Roz's game. Alex glanced at the other assassins. Their expressions were unreadable. If he hesitated too long, they would grow suspicious. He took a single step forward. And then, with impossible speed, he struck. The dagger plunged into Valmont's side. A gasp. Blood. The assassins exhaled in satisfaction. But Alex had been precise. Non-lethal. Just enough to sell the illusion. Valmont staggered, eyes wide in surprise. Trust me. That was the message in Alex's gaze. The older man understood. Alex twisted the blade, making it look fatal, then pulled it free as Valmont collapsed onto the floor. For the watching assassins, it was a clean execution. For Valmont, it was a second chance. One that Alex would ensure did not go to waste. Aftermath. The mission was a success. By the time they returned to the League's stronghold, word had already spread. Kane had led the operation flawlessly. Valmont was dead. The fortress had fallen. Alex stood before Ra's al Ghul, blood still staining his hands. The demon's head studied him. You have done well, he said. Alex bowed his head. I live to serve. Talia smirked. But Roz was not finished. There is one final test, he said. The air in the chamber grew colder. You have taken life for the League, Roz continued. Now, you must risk your own. Alex's pulse remained steady. What do you command, my lord? Roz stepped forward, voice low, almost amused. You will fight me. A whisper of shock spread through the gathered assassins. Even Talia's smirk faded. Alex remained still. This was inevitable. The final step toward proving himself. A fight against Ra's al Ghul himself. And another game Alex would have to win, without revealing what he truly was. End of ch 22. If you wish to read more or simply support me, then check out my Patreon at URL. Or just search Goku_01 in your Patreon and you can find the advanced chapters there. 1 comments 0 vote. Download the app for greater interaction. You can chat with me about my writing experience apart from the comments section. Cthulhu_Yog Sothoth. Download app now. Chapter 23. Duel with the Demon. The chamber was filled with silence. The air was thick with tension, the kind that came before a storm. Assassins lined the perimeter, their faces masked by shadow, their eyes locked on the two figures at the center of the room. The torches flickered, casting wavering shapes on the cold stone walls. At the heart of it all stood Ra's al Ghul, the demon's head, his emerald eyes gleaming like a predator sizing up its prey. His stance was relaxed but deceptive, each muscle coiled with centuries of honed instinct. In his hand, he held a curved sword, ancient but pristine, sharpened to a lethal edge. Across from him, Alex, still known as Kane within the League, stood motionless, his own sword resting lightly in his grip. His body was at ease, but his mind was already calculating. This fight was unavoidable. Roz had been testing him from the beginning, measuring not just his skill but his intent, his discipline, his control. A mere recruit, no matter how talented, would never be considered truly part of the League until they proved themselves against its master. And now, the moment had come. Roz lifted his sword. "The blade reveals the truth of a warrior's soul," he said. His voice was calm, but beneath it lay the weight of unshakable authority. "Today, we see yours." He shifted into a combat stance. A heartbeat later, he attacked. The first exchange. Roz moved like lightning, his sword a silver blur in the dim chamber. Alex reacted instantly, bringing up his own blade to block. The impact rang through the hall, the sound of steel meeting steel echoing like a bell tolling for the doomed. Roz wasted no time. He twisted his wrist, sliding his blade along Alex's guard in an attempt to disarm him. Alex countered with a sharp pivot, shifting his weight to deflect the force rather than resist it directly. The movement was subtle, but it saved him from losing his weapon. Roz smiled. "Good." He pressed forward, launching a rapid series of attacks. His footwork was flawless, his strikes precise, each one aimed not just to wound, but to control the battlefield. Alex gave ground strategically. He let himself appear slightly overwhelmed, not weak, but challenged. He needed Roz to believe he was talented, but still within human limits. He couldn't afford to slip up. Roz wasn't just a warrior. He was a master of deception, a man who had lived for centuries. The smallest inconsistency, the slightest mistake in his act, and Roz would know. Alex dodged a thrust aimed at his ribs, countering with a calculated slash. Roz deflected it easily, but the movement forced him back a step. A test. Roz was still testing him. Alex exhaled, adjusting his stance. Fine. He would play along. The flow of battle. The fight continued, each exchange more intense than the last. Roz struck high, Alex ducked and swept a kick at his legs. The demon's head leapt back effortlessly, spinning midair before landing with perfect balance. Alex barely had time to raise his sword before Roz was on him again, their blades colliding in a deadly rhythm. The watching assassins held their breath. Talia stood at the edge of the chamber, arms folded, her expression unreadable. Alex noticed her watching him closely, not with the casual interest she had shown before, but with something sharper. A suspicion. Or something else. He didn't have time to dwell on it. Roz adjusted his grip, shifting into a new stance. Alex recognized it instantly, the water dragon form, an ancient style designed for relentless, flowing attacks. It prioritized continuous movement, leaving no openings for counterattacks. If Alex let Roz dictate the fight now, he would be forced entirely on the defensive. That couldn't happen. Alex changed his approach. He adapted. Instead of meeting Roz's strength head-on, he started to redirect. Roz struck, Alex twisted his blade at the last moment, letting the attack slide past him harmlessly. Another strike came, Alex sidestepped, turning the force of the blow against Roz instead. It was subtle, but effective. Roz narrowed his eyes. He knew what Alex was doing. The fight slowed. The tension thickened. And then, without warning, Roz changed everything. The Lazarus effect. Roz suddenly abandoned his sword. Instead, he lunged forward, faster than before, his movements unnatural, as if driven by something beyond mere skill. His palm shot toward Alex's chest with inhuman speed. Alex barely dodged. He twisted away, but Roz was already following, his strikes relentless, each one hitting with the force of a hammer. Alex blocked, barely managing to stay on his feet. His mind raced. This isn't normal. He had expected Roz to be strong, but not this strong. The Lazarus pit wasn't just preserving his life. It was enhancing him. His reflexes, his power, his endurance, they were beyond human. Alex gritted his teeth. He had wanted to make this look like a real fight. But if Roz was truly using whatever unnatural boost the Lazarus pit provided, then he might not have a choice but to use more of his Beyonder abilities to compensate. He had to be careful. The breaking point. Roz pressed the attack. Alex feigned fatigue, letting himself stumble slightly. The watching assassins murmured. Some exchanged glances. Roz caught the shift in atmosphere. He paused. Are you faltering, Kane? Alex wiped sweat from his brow, giving a tired smirk. Just catching my breath, my lord. Roz smiled, but it was the smile of a man who saw everything. Alex couldn't drag this out much longer. He had to end this. The final strike. Roz attacked again. Alex stepped in instead of retreating. The move surprised Roz. Alex used the moment of hesitation. He ducked low, shifting under Roz's guard. In a flash, he drove his sword past Roz's defenses, stopping just a hair's breadth from his throat. Silence. The watching assassins froze. Talia's eyes widened slightly. For the first time, Roz hesitated. And then, he laughed. A deep, satisfied laugh. He stepped back, raising his hands in surrender. Well done. Alex lowered his sword, keeping his breathing even. Roz wiped a drop of sweat from his forehead, nodding in approval. Few have ever forced me into such a position, Kane. You are indeed worthy of the League. The tension in the chamber dissolved. The assassins exhaled. Alex allowed himself a small, careful nod. It was an honor, my lord. Roz sheathed his blade. Rest tonight. Tomorrow, you will receive your next assignment. Alex inclined his head. Of course. Talia approached as Roz turned away. She stared at him for a long moment, then smirked. You're full of surprises. Alex smiled slightly, keeping his thoughts to himself. Yes. Yes, he was. And soon, the League of Assassins would see just how many. Only one mission remained. And then, it would be time to leave. End of chapter 23. Dash 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 dash. If you wish to read more or simply support me, then check out my Patreon at URL. Or just search Goku_01 in your Patreon and you can find the advanced chapters there. 2 chapters for my dear viewers. Also no chapter tomorrow since I uploaded tomorrow's chapter today. Cthulhu_Yogg-Sothoth creators thoughts. 5 comments 0 vote. Chapter 24, The Final Trial, a Night of Decision. The cold mountain air was sharp against Alex's skin as he stood atop the fortress of the League of Assassins. Beneath him, the stronghold stretched like a maze of stone and shadow, its courtyards and corridors bathed in pale moonlight. He took a slow breath, steadying his mind. Tonight would be the final night he spent as Kane, the assassin. For more than a month, he had played the role masterfully, earning Ra's al Ghul's trust, studying the League's methods, and gathering secrets that no outsider had ever lived to learn. He had always known this moment would come, the moment he would have to leave the League for good. But he also knew Roz. The demons had never let anything slip through his grasp. The final trial begins. In the grand hall of the fortress, Ra's al Ghul sat upon his throne, emerald eyes gleaming in the dim torchlight. At his side stood Talia, silent and unreadable. The assassins lined the walls, their faces hidden beneath dark hoods. Alex strode forward, his expression calm. He bowed slightly, a practiced gesture of respect. Roz studied him. Kane. You have proven yourself again and again. Now, only one task remains. Alex met his gaze. What is your command, my lord? The warlord rose to his feet, stepping closer. A traitor to the League has fled. His name is Darius Fael, one of my former shadows. He seeks to sell our secrets to outsiders. This cannot be allowed. A simple assassination order. But Alex knew better. This was a test. I understand, Alex said. Where is he? Roz gestured, and a map was unfurled before him. It depicted an isolated mountain stronghold deep within the Himalayas. Eliminate him, Roz said. And bring me proof of his death. Alex nodded. It will be done. He turned to leave, but Roz spoke again. Fail me, Kane, and you will not leave these halls alive." Alex didn't look back. He simply walked out of the chamber, already planning his next move. Hunting the prey. The wind howled as Alex made his way through the snow-covered mountains, moving with supernatural silence. The trek took hours, but he never tired. His Beander abilities made him stronger, sharper, and faster than any normal assassin. At last, he reached the target's hideout, a fortified compound, guarded by mercenaries. Alex watched them for several minutes, studying their patterns. These were not League assassins. They relied on outdated formations and predictable patrol routes. Amateurs. Like a shadow, Alex slipped into the compound, eliminating the guards one by one. Silent, efficient, merciless. The last man barely had time to scream before Alex's blade found his throat. Inside the compound, the air was still. And then, "You're late," a voice said. Alex turned. Darius Fael stood at the far end of the chamber, arms crossed, a wry smile on his lips. He was expecting him. "You knew I was coming," Alex said. Darius chuckled. "Of course. Roz always sends someone after his failed experiments." Alex's grip on his blade tightened. "Then you know how this ends." Darius exhaled. "Yes, I do." A pause. And then, Darius moved. Alex barely dodged in time as a dagger sliced through the air. He countered with a quick slash, but Darius was fast, almost as fast as him. The two clashed, their blades ringing against each other in the silence of the chamber. Darius fought with desperation, but Alex was calm, precise, unstoppable. Within minutes, it was over. Darius staggered back, blood seeping from a deep wound. He met Alex's gaze, something knowing in his eyes. "You're not like the others," he said. "You don't belong to the League." Alex hesitated. And that was all Darius needed. With his last ounce of strength, he lunged, not at Alex, but past him, throwing something into the fire pit. Alex's eyes widened. A message scroll. It burned instantly, its contents lost forever. Darius smiled. "You'll have to make your own choices now, Kane." Alex didn't hesitate. He ended it with a single stroke. Darius collapsed. It was done. The real test. Alex returned to the League's fortress before dawn, presenting Darius' bloodstained medallion as proof of his success. Roz examined it, his gaze unreadable. "You have done well," he said. But then, the chamber doors swung open. Two assassins dragged a prisoner into the hall. Darius Fael. Alive. Alex's blood ran cold. Roz turned to him, a smirk playing at his lips. "Did you truly think I would not test you?" Alex kept his expression neutral. "This is your final lesson, Kane," Roz said. "Eliminate him now. In front of us all. Prove your loyalty." Alex clenched his fists. This was the real trial. He had to think fast. He needed a way out. A distraction. Alex moved forward, gripping his blade. Darius met his gaze, and understood. Without warning, Alex threw his dagger, not at Darius, but at the torches along the wall. Fire erupted instantly. The chamber exploded into chaos. The escape. Alex vanished into the smoke. Assassins shouted, scrambling for order, but he was already moving, using his Beander abilities to erase his presence, slipping through the fortress like a phantom. Ra's voice rang out in the distance. "Find him. He does not leave this place alive." But it was too late. By the time the first alarms rang, Alex was already outside, racing into the mountains. The League of Assassins would hunt him forever. But they would never catch him. Because Kane was dead. Only Alexander Kent remained. Aftermath. As dawn broke, Alex stood on a distant ridge, watching the fortress fade into the distance. He had escaped. But he knew this wasn't over. Ra's al Ghul did not forgive betrayal. Talia would not forget him. And one day, they would come for him. But by then, Alex would be stronger. But then, the League of Assassins would no longer be a threat to him. He would be a threat to them. Dash 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 dash. If you wish to read more or simply support me, then check out my Patreon at URL. Or just search Goku_01 in your Patreon and you can find the advanced chapters there. And there we go folks, end of Arc 1. Also heads up, I won't be updating for 3 days since I need to submit some works that are pending because someone messed up my work, so I will be back and will update March 1st. Cthulhu_Yogg-Sothoth creators thoughts. 11 comments 0 vote. Chapter 25, Homecoming and Deception. I've returned from the depths of hiatus, and I'm ready to balance the universe. Or at least my fan FIC priorities. Hand over the power stones, and nobody gets hurt. Dash 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 dash. Alex trudged down the dirt road toward the Kent farmhouse, his clothes tattered, his body visibly thinner, and his posture slightly hunched. His once sturdy frame now looked weakened, a direct result of his latest advancement to Sequence 8 of the Full Pathway and the use of the clown's abilities to manipulate his appearance. It had taken careful planning. His body had shrunk, appearing gaunt from a supposed month-long period without food. His clothes were stained with dirt, his hair disheveled, and his face slightly sunken, a perfect illusion to sell the story. As he neared the house, his heartbeat picked up. This had to be convincing. Then, the front door burst open. Alex. Martha Kent's voice was thick with emotion, and within seconds, she was rushing toward him. Before he could react, she threw her arms around him, pulling him into a desperate embrace. Mom. His voice came out hoarse, weak. I'm back. You, her voice caught, and she pulled away, holding his face between her hands. You've been gone for a whole month. Where were you? What happened to you? Clark and Jonathan appeared in the doorway, their expressions tense. Clark's eyes scanned him, his supervision likely analyzing every inch of his body. Your heartbeat disappeared, Clark said, his voice filled with suspicion and relief. I couldn't find you anywhere. Alex let out a shaky breath, stumbling slightly as if his body couldn't fully support him. A little extra effect from the clown pathway. I don't know what happened, he said, his tone deliberately uncertain. I remember feeling a strange sensation, like my body shutting down. And then, I blacked out. When I woke up, I was in the middle of nowhere, starving, weak. I barely made it back here. It's the most bullshit reason I could think of, and it's going to work because I am the author. Martha's eyes filled with tears. Oh, sweetheart. Jonathan stepped forward, his voice gruff. You don't remember anything. Alex shook his head. Only bits and pieces. But I think it was my powers. Something inside me awakened, and my body just shut down while it adjusted. Clark crossed his arms. That still doesn't explain why I couldn't hear your heartbeat. Not even a trace. Alex looked away, feigning uncertainty. Maybe my body was in some kind of hibernation. Maybe it was so deep that even you couldn't detect it. Clark's frown deepened. That's never happened before. Alex, I checked the entire planet for you. I checked for even a single damn matching heartbeat. Jonathan placed a hand on Clark's shoulder. Let him breathe, son. He just got back. Clark exhaled, nodding reluctantly. Right. Sorry. Martha pulled Alex into another hug. You need food. And rest. Come inside. Alex allowed himself to be led into the house, suppressing a small smile. They bought it. Of course they are going to buy it because I wrote it like that. Dinner and plans for the future. Sitting at the dinner table felt surreal. The smell of home-cooked food, the warmth of family, it was a stark contrast to the shadows of Gotham and the danger of Ra's al Ghul. Martha piled his plate high with food, watching him with motherly concern. You need to eat more. You've lost so much weight. Alex gave a weak chuckle. Trust me, I plan to. He dug in, making a show of eating like a man who hadn't had a proper meal in weeks. Even more allusions to reinforce the story. Jonathan leaned back in his chair, studying him. So. You said your powers awakened? Alex nodded. Yeah. It's hard to explain, but I feel sharper. Like my mind works differently now. I can process information faster, see patterns I couldn't before. Clark arched an eyebrow. That sounds like more than just intelligence. Alex hesitated before pulling out a small metallic cube from his pocket. He placed it on the table, pressing a hidden mechanism. The cube unfolded into a small drone, hovering silently. Martha gasped. You built that? Yeah, Alex admitted. And that's just a prototype. Clark narrowed his eyes. You made that just after returning? It was a like in 5 hours at most. Less than that, actually, Alex said, pretending to look sheepish. Once I started understanding how things worked, it just clicked. Jonathan rubbed his chin. And what do you plan to do with all this knowledge? Alex set his fork down. I want to start a company. Martha blinked. A company? Alex nodded. If I say I have superintelligence, that's a simple, logical explanation for why I can build these things. It gives me a way to contribute to the world while keeping my abilities under control. I don't want to rely on Clark or anyone else. I want to stand on my own. Clark studied him carefully. You're serious about this? I am. Jonathan finally nodded. Then we'll support you. Martha smiled warmly. We just want you to be happy, sweetheart. Alex exhaled. Step 1 was complete. The truth beneath the lies. Later that night, Alex sat on the porch, staring at the Kansas night sky. The stars twinkled above, vast and endless. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. His heartbeat had been hidden from Clark for an entire month. That shouldn't have been possible. At first, he thought it was just the pathways at work. But the more he thought about it, the more uneasy he felt. It had happened too perfectly. Too conveniently. What if it wasn't just his ability that hid him? What if someone else had done it? The only person who could intervene in such a way would be himself. His future self. His fingers tightened. If that was true, then the implications were massive. His future self would have had to come back in time. And if he did that, that means his future self had stolen the Speed Force or used his Beyonder ability to come back, but why? There were only 2 logical reasons. He needed to fulfill a ritual for advancing to above the sequence. Something, or someone, threatened his very existence. Neither option gave him any comfort. And then there was the timing of his full pathway's advancement. It happened just before he planned to return home. That couldn't be a coincidence. Was the full pathway guiding him toward something? Or was his future self making sure everything happened according to some unseen plan? The thought sent a chill down his spine. He exhaled slowly, closing his eyes. There was no way to know for sure. Not yet. But if his future self had really interfered, it meant that things were going to get much, much more complicated. And soon. The wind shifted. Alex's eyes snapped open. A presence. Something was watching him. Not from the house. Not from the fields. His fingers twitched, instinctively calling upon his newfound abilities. And then, a whisper. Soft. Indistinct. But undeniably real. His breath hitched. He turned his gaze skyward, staring into the vast, starry void. Was it truly his future self pulling the strings? Or was something else at play? Something older. And far more dangerous. Dash 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 dash. If you wish to read more or simply support me, then check out my Patreon at URL. Or just search Goku_01 in your Patreon and you can find the advanced chapters there. I am back. Finally finished my work. So, this is the start of Arc 2. Also, should I add AN like this or not? Cthulhu_Yogg-Sothoth Creator's Thoughts. Chapter 26, The Cost of a Dream. The dream was simple: establish a company, build a future, and create a front for his growing power. But reality was far from simple. Alex sat in front of a desk at the Metropolis Business Registration Office, his fingers tapping against the surface as he stared at the older man behind the counter. The man, with his graying mustache and tired eyes, barely looked at him as he flipped through the documents Alex had spent the last week preparing. "You're too young," the man finally muttered, adjusting his glasses. Alex forced a polite smile. "I understand, sir. But I've met all the legal requirements, haven't I?" The man sighed, setting the papers down. "Technically, yes. But practically," he leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You need a legal guardian to register a company at your age. You also need, well, let's just say the process moves faster when you know how things work around here." Alex clenched his jaw. He knew exactly what the man meant: bribes. The weight of corruption hung in the air like a thick smog, suffocating any dreams of fairness. He had heard stories of businessmen having to pay off officials just to get their papers processed, but experiencing it firsthand was something else. "How much?" Alex asked, keeping his voice steady. The man glanced around before scribbling a number on a piece of paper and sliding it across the desk. Alex picked it up, his eyes narrowing at the outrageous amount. "This is ridiculous," Alex said. The man shrugged. "Welcome to the real world, kid. You either pay, or your application stays at the bottom of the pile for the next year. Maybe two." Alex took a slow breath. He didn't have this kind of money. His personal savings, even with his intelligent investments, weren't nearly enough to cover the bribe and still leave enough for initial business expenses. He needed help. A father's sacrifice. Later that night, Alex sat across from Jonathan Kent in the dimly lit kitchen of their farmhouse. His father listened quietly as Alex explained the situation, his face unreadable. "So, they want a bribe," Jonathan finally said, his voice laced with disappointment. Alex nodded. "I don't like it, but it's the only way to move forward." Jonathan leaned back, exhaling slowly. "I had hoped things had changed since my younger days, but corruption is still the same beast." Silence hung between them for a moment before Jonathan stood up, walked to an old wooden cabinet, and pulled out a small locked box. He set it on the table and opened it, revealing a few neatly folded documents and a small bundle of cash. "I was saving this for emergencies," Jonathan said. "For the farm, for you and Clark, but if this is what you need, I won't hold it back." Alex stared at the money, a mix of gratitude and guilt washing over him. Dad, I can't. You can, Jonathan interrupted firmly. And you will. I know you, son. This isn't just some business idea. It's a foundation for your future. And if this is what it takes to give you a chance, I'll do it. Alex swallowed hard. He wasn't used to feeling this emotional. I'll pay you back, Alex promised, his voice firm. Jonathan smiled, ruffling Alex's hair. I know you will. Sealing the deal. The next morning, Alex returned to the office, this time with Clark by his side. His brother hadn't been thrilled about the whole bribery thing, but he understood the necessity of it. I hate this, Clark muttered as they walked in. Welcome to business, Alex replied dryly. They met with the official, who, upon receiving his processing fee, miraculously found time to approve the application on the spot. Within hours, the paperwork was finalized, and A. Industries was officially registered. Walking out of the building, Alex felt an odd mix of triumph and bitterness. He had won, but at a cost. Clark nudged him. You really think this company will work? Alex smirked. Oh, it'll do more than work. It'll change everything. The Kent brothers walked down the street, unaware that in the shadows, someone was watching. Now, Alex has his company, but the road ahead will be anything but smooth.